We got a fantastic audience tonight, that's right, and you've been practicing your big hello. Now's your chance to give us your big hello. That's right, the people all the way up there, that's right. Okay, go ahead. All right, Teddy, now's your chance to give your big hello right now. Go ahead, give us your big hello. Your big hello, now. Give us your big hello. Teddy, what's the matter? What's the matter? Cat got your tongue? You have laryngitis. Can you talk? Well, say something. I forgot what I was supposed to say. You're supposed to say hello. It's too many words to remember.
I do for fun. I enter your bodies and drive you around for fun.
Really? You drive us around
And experience what you do for fun. It's fun. Ha ha, fun.
Well, what's it like?
Funny you should ask. Why, just last week I was in that guy's head.
What kind of an experience was it?
Oh, there's plenty of room. I'll tell you one thing, he's very nice to his girlfriend. Treats his wife like shit, though.
Maybe we shouldn't talk about that.
Yeah, they don't.
So, Kevin.
And let me tell you, showbiz sucks. It's all been downhill since Elvis died.
Elvis, what? You knew Elvis Presley?
I was his personal cook. He'd say,
"Oh, Sid, can you get me a fat sandwich and hold the sandwich?"
a fat sandwich? What can I tell you? The man was on drugs. I'd say, Elvis, eat healthy, have an enema. He wouldn't listen. Look where he is today, dead. My mama always liked a box of chocolates. Once you finish the chocolates, they put you in the box.
Who else can you do?
Who else can you do? Thank you, thank you, thank you.
That was me.
That was me.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. All right, all right. Knock it off, knock it. Hey.
Hey! I named you a puppet, but you sure are the stiff one, Mr. Slinkerhauser.
No, it's Strassman.
Exactly.
Hello and welcome to Landon Live. My name is Landon Harvey, and today we have the amazing David Strassman. David, how are you doing today?
How you doing, Landon? You know, it's funny. I haven't seen those bits in years, and I've forgotten how much fun they were to perform.
Yeah, they're absolutely phenomenal. It was fun going through and trying to figure out what to pull from your YouTube channel, which is just chock full of a bunch of hysterical content. Did ventriloquism find you, or did you find ventriloquism? What was your introduction into the art?
Well, I started doing, well, as a kid, I was unloved. So I started doing magic because all magicians are unloved. And that's why we become magicians. So I was really, really good. And in 8th grade, a teacher, Steve Hart, who's pretty well-known ventriloquist, Steve Horowitz, I think is both. He goes by both names. He taught a class in ventriloquism. So I had a choice of, I had a choice of math, French, or ventriloquism. So I was doing magic, but I took it for the easy A because I thought, I don't know who wants to play with puppets.
Right.
But I did the class and I excelled, and he showed me how to entertain and do kid shows and advertise in the local paper. And so I started making money at a very early age. So when the money came in, my interest really picked up.
Wow, that's phenomenal. What was your first puppet?
Chuck. Chuck was my first puppet. He is a Howie Olson figure, which is a guy that was in Wisconsin. I had a catalog, and all the puppets were like $200, but they had one that was tinier and smaller for $90. This is back in 1972, I think. I sent away for it, and that's what Chuck was. And over the years, I've made molds of his face and improved his head. His hair came flocked, kind of like
wow.
And that rubbed off after a year or so. So years later, I made a mold of his face and kind of cleaned him up a bit. And so the Chucks that I've been using now for the last 3 decades are ones that I've made myself.
Wow, that's phenomenal. Well, on the subject of Chuck, do you have one that you use primarily for virtual shows or for just shows, and then one that's more based on the animatronic side, or is it a combination of both that you primarily use?
No, I have 2 Chucks. One's a spare, and the one Chuck is sitting right here. They are both fully robotic, fully animatronic, fully manual. Exactly. There we go. Both Chucks are like that. Sadly, the other one Chuck is sitting here. The other one is in a warehouse in Victoria, in Melbourne, Australia. I was in the middle of performing my latest show when the pandemic hit. So my entire show is in a warehouse until the next time I'm touring, which is going to be November 2021. But I did bring home Teddy, Sid, Grandpa, Chuck, and Buttons in case I was going to do any, online shows. And I'm actually doing a Zoom show on the 21st of November.
Wow.
For free.
Wow. So to a lot of our audience tuning in here, this looks incredibly insane, especially from just a traditional ventriloquist with a figure point of view. When you perform, Chuck, are there other controls aside from the head stick that you worry about accidentally setting off, or is that all you that you tinker with?
Everything in here I've probably put in. It's kind of hard to see. This is for his squirter.
Okay. Yeah.
He was wearing a mask in the last thing I was doing. There's his mask. But yeah, inside his head, I built all that, and this controls his mouth manually, and it also controls his mouth robotically, and it controls his eyes robotically as well. So, no, his manual operation is literally thumb. This is mouth, eyes, and head turn. If I want to turn on his eyes to make him glow red, which I don't have a battery in him right now, I just go switch there. And then if I want to make him spit, I literally go like this. So I have a little, it's a little plumbing thing I made out of, are we going to do this, Chuck? No, we're not going to do this? No. Okay. So anyway, yeah, he is fully manual and fully robotic as well. And his arms, as you saw in that picture, arms are fully robotic. Each arm has 14 channels of robotic movement.
Wow. That's amazing. So you have a few basic features to perform them, but then when you're doing, I guess you have like a control, control that fits in the palm of your hand or something along those lines?
Yeah. So, well, Chuck is robotic or manual, and they're interchangeable. I can literally pull my hand out of him manually and operate him robotically. That is sitting in a Melbourne, Australian warehouse. I have a handheld wireless device, which is 5 channels: mouth, eyes, head right, left, head forward, back, head rotate. And it's this big, and it either controls Chuck, 5 channels of Chuck, or 5 puppets' mouths. Hear my doggy? So it's Chuck, let's see, Chuck, Sid, Kevin, Grandpa, and Ted. And so that is the robotic aspect of my last show, which was what was the last show? I, Ted E.
Mm-hmm.
A 20-minute conversation where all the puppets were programmed for 20 minutes in 1-minute segments. And then I did their mouths live. And if I was too fast or too slow, I could see their movements and I could slow down my dialogue or speed it up so that their movements robotically that's pre-programmed can match the live mouth, if that makes sense.
Wow. That is absolutely phenomenal. How long did that take to get down? I mean, to build is one aspect, but then to get it where it's honed, where you feel comfortable going out and taking on that. Because
well, any show, doesn't matter what you do, whether you're memorizing dialogue as an actor or a ventriloquist, it's a matter of memorizing it to the point to where you know it so well that you can think of other things while you're reciting the material. If that material comes out of your mouth and your body without you having to think about it, then you can blossom as a performer. So prior to a show, I will record all my routines and I'll play them in my iPhone. I'll make them an album in iTunes, right?
Yeah,
complete with album artwork, which is like the artwork of my show.
Oh, I love that.
I'll listen to the entire show from beginning to end, including any music interludes I have. And I'll do it at the gym, and I'll do it in the morning, I'll do it in the evening, and I'll do it for a month before I do this is when I do a brand new show. For example, the chocolate diet is in my head. I'm only going to need that's my latest show. That's a 2-hour show. I'm only going to need 3 or 4 days of hearing the stuff, and it'll all come back to me. So the robotic part is I am so used to performing or animating a puppet that when I move my thumb, it's automatic. It's automatic. I don't even have to think about the puppetry aspect. If I'm here, this is Buttons. Hold on a second. This is Buttons the clown. This is Buttons. So if I'm talking to you, right, and I'm explaining something, I can have I'm not even conscious of what he's doing, right? He's just literally doing stuff, and my hand is autonomous from what I'm telling you. So, are you okay? What? Are you all right? I what the hell is this?
That's phenomenal. Wow. So that's the years of practice. And then are you able to do that with like new puppets that you pick up too? Or does it take a different level of getting used
every puppet I've designed so that it's either like Teddy Bear and Grandpa Fred and Sid are literally mouth open. That's it.
Right. Yeah. Traditional kind of Muppet style. Yeah.
The Muppet movement, yeah. Chuck and Kevin and any other puppet and Buttons are the same thing. Mouth, eyes, and the head stick. And even though Kevin he's like this, his operation is like this, but it's still mouth and eyes, and then of course the head, right and left. So I make sure that the motion of puppetry is the same for every puppet.
I love that. We have a comment here from Sherry Brown-Rosner. She said, how do we get to your November 21st show?
If you go to my Facebook page, you can sign up. Now, I must say, it's because most of my audience is Australia and New Zealand, it's playing at 7 p.m. in Melbourne or Sydney, Australia, which means it's midnight in California on Saturday, the 21st. So that would be 2 a.m. for you, Landon, right? You're 2 hours. Yep. And so if you happen to be in Hawaii, Alaska, it'll be earlier than midnight. I think we might have it available afterwards somewhere on a private link. But this show is free. We're not charging anything. But believe me, we have put 2 months of pre-production into. I did one a couple weeks ago. We have, just like you do, we have amazing graphics and transitions between characters and special effects. And I've got Chuck and Teddy in the audience. I get to put them in their lounge room. So we're doing all kinds of green screen magic and stuff like that.
Wow. I love that. That's phenomenal. Where you have a thing, do you have a thing on Netflix coming out? Is that?
No, I had a show on Netflix.
Okay.
And then it got removed. It's still there, the announcement for it, but it got removed somehow. This is about 4 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it magically got removed. I have some ideas why, but I won't go there.
Wow. Well, when did you realize
jealousy in the world of ventriloquism?
Oh, okay. Yeah, say no more. I think we can put the pieces together. When did you realize that this is what you wanted to do?
When I couldn't do this. Where is it?
Okay.
I wanted to be an astronaut all my young growing up days, and I think it was when I started making money. That's when as I said, that's when I really went, oh my God, this is amazing. And I went to New York to study acting because I wanted to do acting. I kind of blew off the astronaut thing. They already landed on the moon, so I went, oh well. So I went to New York to study acting, and then I started performing on the streets and made unbelievable amounts of money performing in New York, and that was absolutely crazy. In 1977, I was doing 50 shows a week in the Village on the weekends, in Greenwich Village on the weekends, Central Park on Saturday and Sunday, Wall Street during lunch hour, before the theater crowds on Broadway. I made it a full-time job, and back then it was earning around $500 a week cash, which probably would represent $2 or $3 grand today, maybe more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was absolutely insane. I was on top of the world.
Wow. That's absolutely phenomenal. So from that point, you went, because everyone knows you now as, you're touring and doing these amazing grand, you're not just a ventriloquist, you're a production. It's, you go to see a Strassman show, and there's so many different aspects that make up your show today. How do you go from performing on the street to something of such a grand scale?
Well, I was fortunate to start, when I started performing on the street in New York. Well, what happens in November? It starts snowing. You can't perform on the street when it's winter. So I moved into the comedy clubs. I auditioned at Catch a Rising Star and the Improv and the Comic Strip, and then ended up working out at the Comic Strip and the Improv with all the contemporary comedians from today. You name them, I've worked with them, from Eddie Murphy to Jerry Seinfeld. They were all my contemporaries at the time. And then that was the comedy club boom. When I started in 1977, there were 4 comedy clubs in the United States, maybe 5, 6. By 1980, there probably was 50. By 1985, there had to have been 200. And as the clubs exploded, I went from an opening act of 20 crappy minutes to middle act of doing 35 pretty solid minutes. And then it wasn't until I introduced Chuck in the remote control, having him come to life, that's when I became a headliner and could do a solid hour, and started packing the comedy clubs and started television in the United States.
So when you got your solid hour down, was that just with Chuck, or did you have other characters?
Oh, it was Chuck and Teddy.
Okay.
Chuck and Teddy, yeah. So let me see, Chuck. I had Chuck all the way through. Yeah, it was only Chuck until 1986, I think, 1987, and then I introduced Teddy Bear. But it's weird. American audiences really didn't go for Teddy. He was too cute.
Really?
Yeah, okay. And it wasn't until I went to Australia in 1991 that I had no idea that Australians and the English and any of the British Commonwealth, they're teddy bearophiles. I had no idea. I had no idea that teddy bears in their culture. There's teddy bear picnics and teddy bear chocolates and teddy bear this, teddy bear that. And my teddy bear puppet just took off ballistically. Never, ever, never imagined that would happen. So that is one of the reasons why I took off in Australia. And and plus the other reason I pretty much performed down there and in the British Commonwealth is it's great to be famous somewhere else and then come home and no one recognizes you at the grocery store. Because that's really, I hate fame. It's an invasive, horrible thing. And you wonder why these stars have compounds in Beverly Hills and Bel Air and fences or, and armed guards, is because the fans, fan is short for fanatic.
Yeah. It's it's really a neat thing hearing you talk about it, because that makes sense. I mean, you're able to get that adrenaline rush of being on stage and performing for these amazing crowds that love what you do and love all your characters and recognize them and can quote your act probably verbatim. And then you're able to also leave, get that retreat away from it all, and decompress, get new material, new ideas, and kind of just get away from it all, and then get right
it's
back.
good to have the best of both worlds. So
yeah, it is. That's phenomenal. Well, there have been a lot of side-by-side videos over the past few years. This is probably a few years back, but showing how similar they both are. So while on this topic, what was your response to Zerdin winning AGT with what people claim to be your act? How with that?
Well, look, it's I performed in 1986. I did the Late Show with Arsenio Hall, and I debuted my routine of Chuck firing me. I leave the stage, he comes to life, and that blew everybody away, and it put me on the map. And I got tons of TV in America. I was invited to England, and I did it in England in 1988 or 89. I am not the first ventriloquist to have robotics or servos in their puppets. I met, what was his name in New York? He had a Chinese puppet. He's kind of credited was the first guy to put robotics in. I can't remember his name. And then even in the 80s, I ran into a guy in Canada who had a remote control transmitter in one puppet and put it in another puppet, and he put the other puppet on a chair. But the weird thing is I never connected and went, oh, I should do that. I never thought, wow, why don't I put that in my act? And it wasn't until I was drunk off my head with a friend of mine, because we're radio control airplane guys.
Okay, wow.
Flying RC planes for decades. And he goes, we were just so drunk, we could barely even see. He goes, why don't you put the servos in Chuck? I go, oh, that'd be cool, man. We could freak people out. And we kind of did it on, how can we freak people out? And I never even in my mind even thought of the things I had seen prior. So, every ventriloquist is going to do a woodpecker joke. If you don't, you're stupid. Yeah. Right? But that is called, I call it parallel. It's parallel creativity.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Every ventriloquist is going to do a woodpecker joke. Now that we have robotics, everyone's going to think of some way to have robotics in their show. I'm sure now. And Steve Axtell Creations, he's capitalized that and has so many different robotics that you can have in your show, and anybody can, and they're relatively inexpensive. Hold on, my dog is freaking out. I got to bring him in the house. Come on in, doggy. Come on in. There we go. All right, Arthur, are you okay, buddy? You okay? So I did this routine, and the one thing that I did was I added the element of theater to ventriloquism when I did this routine. When I left the stage, it was an acting piece, and I paused, I waited, I was angry, there was no comedy. And the idea of Chuck coming to life was like, oh my God, this thing's alive. And this is before there was the Walking with Dinosaurs how-to videos or the behind the scenes Jurassic Park. None of that existed. So no one really knew about robotics or radio control airplane servos, which you could go to any hobby shop then and buy. And by the way, at the time I put that in Chuck, I was flying quarter scale, right? 8-foot wingspan airplanes. So, I mean, we had full-on reliable robotics.
Yeah.
The first time I did this in a theater was in the Cellar, the Comedy Cellar in Greenwich Village, New York. And a buddy of mine was hiding under the table with a full-on radio-controlled transmitter. Obviously, I've got computers that run it now, and I got my little handheld thing.
Right.
Back then, he literally, he had to pull the antenna out, and it was sticking out from underneath the right. So so I put that on the map because it was a piece of theater, and you can do anything. If you saw a woman in half in a magic show, first of all, everybody knows there's a box. Everybody knows that something's with the box, right? The magic I don't like is when a magician has a box or something that you don't see in real life, that you only find in a magic show. It's a magic trick.
Right.
So for Chuck to come alive, I had to have a piece of theater that went with it. And so from that, I started putting music and sound effects in my show, and I'd have, Chuck would talk about wanting to be a real boy, and I'd have the Pinocchio music, and then I got my dinosaurs that sang Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen, and I added my show to be a more theatrical production. So I did in 1996 the Royal Variety Show, which is the biggest. It's kind of like the Lincoln Center show here. It's the biggest one in England. The Queen is there, or Prince Charles, and I performed for Prince Charles. And I did that piece. And when Zerdin came out and did his thing in, 4 or 5 years ago, 2010 or something, I don't know when that was. And I did a little research. He had done the same routine on that same show, that English show, the Royal Variety Show, 10 years to the date that I had done it. And everybody forgot about me, and they stood up. Oh my God, this guy's what an incredible, unique act. The problem was he did it word for word. And he did the routine. He copied me word for word.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with anybody doing a technology, but make it your own, make it different.
Put your own spin on it. Yeah.
Exactly. Put your own spin on it. Well, he didn't do that. So when I found out about the AGT and people say, hey, this guy's doing your routine, I was truly disappointed. Disappointed that someone would have the balls to not only go on there. And like, I used to work with Howie Mandel. I knew Howie Mandel in the early days. I guess memory is fleeting. People don't remember what came first, So, had he said or asked me, can I do this routine? I'd say, fine. I don't even do it anymore. I'd give him permission. Great. I said, but it's a bit similar to mine. Why don't you put your own spin on it?
Right.
But he didn't. He just did it and claimed it at his. And to me, that's as bad as anything Trump would do. So I put him down there with Trump.
Right. Well, I'm curious. Chuck is such a popular character of yours. When, did you ever try to establish the character and people were like, oh, it's like Chucky or this or that, and you were trying to get away from that? Or did you just always accept it and you played with the whole, evil doll type thing? I'm sorry?
Well, you mean the Chucky thing?
Yeah, or just the whole stigma of the creepy ventriloquist dummy.
No, that's what I've done is I want to make sure that, look, my show has always been about, hi, I'm a ventriloquist. Ventriloquists are stupid. This is a dummy. You're all afraid of it. I'm going to take that and expand upon that for my entire career. And Chuck's eyes glow red, and he vomits on people, and he pisses on people, and he spits on people, and he says, I'm going to possess your soul, or I'm going to kill you. I've always had that dark bent to it. But the funny thing about Chucky and Chuck Child's Play, in the early 80s, I went around Hollywood with Chuck going, hey, I've got this puppet. He's evil. Let's do a movie about an evil puppet. No one would do anything. Next thing I know, there's a puppet named Chucky, and he's evil. Now, he's not a ventriloquist doll. He's a toy you buy.
Yeah.
So, well, wait a minute. Did someone hear me?
Wow. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. When did your show go from a vent act to a production with, sets, lighting, animatronics, and sound effects?
It was when I was in Australia. Well, I know when I did the comedy clubs in the United States, and I was playing all those clubs, I'd show up remember, a comedy club is literally a brick wall and a microphone. And a couple lights. There's no wings. You have to walk in sometimes you're walking through the audience to get on stage. It's absolutely archaic. It's not a theater. It's a bar. Excuse me. And most of those times, people were smoking and drinking, getting so drunk.
Yeah.
And I would show up with 7 cassette tapes, and I would go like this to each tape and make sure they were just literally, there we go, all right where the color meets the tape, so they're queued up. And I'd have them in this thing, and I'd say a big, huge placard that says, when Chuck says, I'm tired of being a real boy, put this tape in and press play. And I had it so that if they put it in and press play and they forgot to take it out, the tape would play and you'd hear nothing. So I made it foolproof because most of the sound guys were not sound engineers. They were doormen.
Right.
The owner said, oh, you're the sound engineer. This stupid ventriloquist has sound cues, right? So I started, and then I'd say, hey, when Chuck's eyes glow red and he says he's possessed by the devil, dim the lights to half. So I had theatrical effects in my show in the 80s in the comedy clubs. When I went to Australia and got really well known, I went from performing in a comedy club, a 300-400 seater, to branching out into proscenium theaters. One thing that America has and Australia has is a beautiful theater in every city. Doesn't matter where you are. It could be Ames, Iowa. It could be Joliet, Illinois. There's a beautiful theater. Most of them in America are mothballed or closed or boarded up. Yeah. But in Australia and England, there is a history of theater in every community, and everybody goes to theater. And if it's not a like a copy band, then it'll be a Christmas pageant. And if it's not a Christmas pageant, it'll be the local children ballet. And so the people in England and Australia and Ireland and Scotland, they regularly go to these big proscenium theaters and watch shows. So it's natural to go to these things and sell tickets, and people will come, especially if they've seen you on TV. And when I started playing these theaters, I had no sets or anything, but it went, oh my God, look, there's fly lines. I could fly things in. I could put up big, huge sets. I can have special effects. And so with that ability to use what's in a theater, then I had to learn how to build a set and then have it break down so you can travel. And like, I don't know if you can show my latest one, the chocolate diet. Do you have that?
Yeah, we've got this photo here.
See those hamburgers?
Yes.
Those are massive, massive banners that rotate. And on the other side is some other fast food. And then at the intermission, we switched the banners out to 2 more images. And you see those sets. Those sets are 5 and 6 feet tall. Now they all are vinyl coverings that are velcroed to aluminum frames, or aluminium if you're in England. They velcro to those frames, and they literally break down, and the velcro and the vinyl images roll up into these tubes.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. And your last show was I, Teddy, and did you just have a giant? You had a really neat backdrop for that. I don't have that on here. But wasn't it like like you were in like a workshop or something?
Yeah, it's this massive backdrop, the size of I think it was, I don't know, 30 feet by 16 feet tall. It was massive. No, it's taller than that. It could basically cover the back cyclorama of any theater. And this was, it was 3-dimensional drawing. It was flat, obviously, 2D. But when you looked at it, you saw tools and electronic equipment and windows and puppets and bins of storage. But it was done in a way that made it look like it was 3D. It was absolutely amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, beautiful. It's so neat to see. All
sitting in my garage, all folded up, and I have nowhere to put it, and I'm never going to use it again. So maybe I should auction off for someone who wants it for their theater.
Yeah, Strassman memorabilia. I love it. Is that how is it like ever? Is it a completely new show every time, or are there chunks that are your tried and true that you keep in the show?
New show every time.
Wow.
Yeah, completely. I mean, the only thing that was the same would be when I did the dinosaurs doing Bohemian Rhapsody as my encore. That was pretty much the same for 20 years, and then I toward the last 10 years, I think I would have them start Queen, and then you'd hear the skip of a record, and they'd go into You're the One That I Want from Grease.
I love that. Well, your show involves a lot of physical comedy with your characters. You know, writing a joke where it's, you know, set up punch is one thing, but how do you begin to write comedy for your physical comedy for your show? Is it trying different forms of manipulation in front of a mirror when you've got characters, or what is your take on that?
My shows develop as I perform them. I do the only rehearsal I do is memorization. So I don't even put my puppet, like, for example, the Chocolate Diet debuted in November last year, a year ago, in I think it's called the Laycock Theatre in Australia, north of Sydney. We were there for 4 days, and we were there for 3 days before for a dress rehearsal. And I arrived with all these new props and these new things, and I've got this really cool hoop where Kevin appears in a time portal.
Oh, cool!
So, yeah, it's so awesome.
That's awesome. And
so I'll show up. Everything's memorized. Literally, we'll do a walkthrough of, okay, this is where this light turns on. This is where this set happens. And we'll do that for 2 days. And then I'll have a dress rehearsal where I'll walk through where I'm actually operating the puppet for the first time with material that I've already memorized backwards and forwards. And then we'll do a dress rehearsal in front of an audience. And then I'll kind of know where I get the laughs. And I've been working these puppets for so many years that, again, I stick my hand in, it's autonomous. It's autonomous. Right. I don't even have to think about what I'm doing. Now, my buddy Steve Altman, he's written the last 4 shows of mine, or co-wrote, because we both write it together. But he writes about 60, 70%, and I write the remaining 30. And he had this bit where Teddy goes, "Is that my shadow?" And he kept looking. Yeah. Anyway, is that my shadow? Yeah, that's your shadow. Our shadow is real. Teddy, quiet. Oh, he looks just like me. Teddy, quiet. And I did this whole physicality thing where Teddy's doing this and this, and as I performed this routine, it just got better and better night after night. My show, when I perform it on a Tuesday, and I do 35 performances, will have vastly improved by that 30th performance. And then I'll come back and do another 30 performances on another tour. And it morphs. My show morphs because I improvise, and then I write down what worked, and I take away what sucked. And so my show is constantly changing and evolving.
Do you record your shows, like every show, to go back, or do you just kind of remember?
No, I hate watching myself. I should. No, I really should, and so many people did. In fact, back in the old days when I was working out at the comic strip, I'd work with people like Seinfeld. He'd always bring a tape recorder and record every single set, and I just hated listening to myself. I hated watching myself, and yeah, I probably would have. I'd probably be so much better, so much sooner. Just one of those things where I can't do it, so I did it.
Well, kind of going back to what we talked about with the set design and everything, you really make use of all of the stage. A typical ventriloquist act, you go to see it and they've got the stand and they might have a case right next to them, but everything is very compartmentalized and right there. And you've got the wings and everything there's just a lot of empty space. But you take up the entire stage, and you even I saw a clip where you were there were couches, and you would move from different couch to couch and pull out a different character and really make it feel like no matter where anyone was sitting, they were really getting an amazing view of the show.
Yeah, but all plays do that. Right. Very few plays will just be in the center. You got to take advantage and use the entire stage.
So you think of when you write, you think of it as a play versus as a ventriloquist act.
Totally. Yeah. No, it's not a ventriloquist act. I don't even consider myself a ventriloquist. I'm an actor who works with puppets.
Sure. I love that. That's an amazing, fresh perspective to approach it with. What was that?
Space. The final frontier.
I love that. That's great. Every character you perform is obviously bold, highly visual, and has a strong personality. When you have a character you want to add to your show that's new, what is your process from the initial idea to where you hope for it to end up?
Well, you basically, anything has to be a written routine, and it has to be funny, and it has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So as long as I have that, and I have an ending which is funny, and I know it's funny, then what comes before that gives me the ability to do a routine, knowing I have a great ending. So it's really memorizing the material. Is what it is.
Do you have a favorite memory from a show?
I have a favorite memory after a show. I have a rule in my show with all the crew and club owners and everybody: do not tell me who's in the performance. I don't want to know if there's a famous person, or I just don't want to know, because it will make me self-conscious. So I was performing in England, and after the show, they went, "Oh yeah, there's some guys that want to see you after the show." I go, "Yeah, who's that?" You go, "It's Ron Howard, Tom Hanks, and Dan Brown." I went, "What?" Dan Brown's the guy that wrote the Da Vinci Codes, and they were in filming the Da Vinci.
Okay. Wow.
So those three come to my dressing room, and Tom Hanks is like, "Oh my God, you're brilliant! I can't believe how funny you are." And I go, No, you're brilliant. You're the Academy Award winner. Don't tell me I'm brilliant." He goes, "No, how'd you do that?" And he and Ron Howard, they just were like little fanboys, loving my show. And honestly, that was the pinnacle of my career, to have Tom Hanks tell me I'm brilliant. And he swore. He went, "You're effing brilliant." And to me, that was the pinnacle of my career. Nothing can top that. I don't care what awards. If I win an Academy Award, that's not going to top being told by Tom Hanks, "You're brilliant."
Wow. Do you ever worry about what you're going to do next? Or is it because your characters are so solidified, and because you have all the stuff that you've already done, that you're like, "Oh, I know that I'll be able to"?
Well, when I finished I, Teddy in March of 2019, maybe that was it, 2019 or 2018. I'm not too sure when it was. I was going to retire. And I retired. And 3 months later, I went absolutely crazy. And I went, "No way." So then I decided, I think I'll write another show. And we started working on the chocolate diet, and put together the chocolate diet. And that's another 3-4 years of touring. But there's obviously a little zombie apocalypse in the way. And I literally was canceled. I did 6 shows in Sydney. I had a whole 35-show tour all throughout Australia, and that whole thing was canceled. It's now postponed till November of a year from now. Yeah.
Wow. Well, kind of harking back to your writing process and the show as a whole, what is your writing process? Do you think in terms of the characters individually, or more of where you want to go, the show to go as a whole and its theme?
Well, I work with Steve Altman. We really have a collaboration, and what happens is, like, for example, I, Teddy, I wanted to talk about how social media is ruining our lives and dictating society. And it was kind of in response to the 2016 election here, how Facebook pretty much was how people believed everything they read on Facebook. And it wasn't until that some people now kind of know half the stuff you read on Facebook is not true, or it's propaganda, or
yeah, you turn on the news and it's all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know so much about that. I mean, the only news I listen to is NPR, which is they don't have sponsors. So it's basically neutral news.
Sure.
I don't, CNN or Fox, I just don't buy their shit. I don't buy it.
Right.
I mean, of course, some of it's real and some of it is, but you got to also understand fake news. That term was devised by someone who didn't like someone being criticized. The minute someone criticizes you, you call it fake news. Well, that's not true. So anyway, I, Teddy was written out of social media is ruining our lives, and could it be possible that people will love the internet and YouTube more than they would love going to a live show? So I thought, well, how do I maybe do a fake TED Talk? And I did this TED Talk where all the puppets are my guests, and we're all debating how the internet has ruined our lives, but in a comedic way. There really was no message. I wasn't political at all. And then at the end of this TED Talk,
there's no political agenda that you're trying to push, or any type of agenda with your comedy.
No. I'm just basically stating society as it is. I'm not for or against anybody.
Sure.
But in the TED Talk, I end up having a mental breakdown and lose control. And all the puppets, when I have the mental breakdown, they all spark and they all die. Because they're robotic, they're all moving by themselves.
Right.
When I have the breakdown, I pull the cords and the sparks go everywhere and the puppets all die. But at the end, they all come to life one by one. So I have 6 puppets coming to life at the end of that show. And you can, I think you can see that show on Vimeo. I have a website somewhere. I think on my website you can find it. How to view that show, iTeddy.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
But anyway, so I was going to retire, and then the chocolate diet thing happened. So I just went absolutely batshit crazy, doing nothing. So
yeah, was it hard to, considering retirement? Was it hard to put the puppets down? Did you still have them out, or did you like lock them up in their suitcases? And
no, dude. Let me tell you something. Between shows, I don't even think about ventriloquism. I don't even think about it. I don't pull a puppet out. They stay. They live in their trunks, man.
No, but I'm sure that, like, thinking about going into retirement and you work with these characters and they become real.
Lying on the floor, buttons lying on the floor. Look, they're puppets.
Buttons is an alcoholic, so that explains it. He's always on the floor.
Yeah. Buttons is an alcoholic,
which is a hilarious character, by the way.
I love it. Yeah. He was
absolutely.
He was abused by the clergy. That's why he's an alcoholic.
Yeah.
So I don't even think about my show. I really don't, because I try to separate my performance and my show from my normal life, which is raising my son, who goes to college next year. So then I'm going to have all the time in the world. But I've been doing a lot of charity work. I've been visiting and doing play therapy in children's hospitals all over the world all my life. I've been to hospitals everywhere, from America to England to Australia, New Zealand, you name it. And now I'm the international ambassador for Heart Kids Australia, which is it's a charity which supports children with congenital heart defects and their families. And so I've been doing live free Zoom shows pretty much since the pandemic began, almost every weekend, for about 16 families every Saturday in Australia, just so they can have a little bit of diversion, and that's been happening. And I'm going to be doing kid shows in Australia or worldwide, whatever, starting Thanksgiving weekend.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
It'll be their pay-per-view, though.
Now, I saw something where you, and I'm not sure how long ago it was, but where you were auctioning off one of the teddies that you had used in the show.
Yeah. We raised money for Children's Hospital, so we did.
Yeah, phenomenal. Wow, it's really neat. And I know on your various pages on Facebook, you can go and see all these photos that are so heartwarming of you with Teddy and these kids in the hospital.
Kids hospitals, yeah. Well, you know what? A friend of mine was really paranoid about the pandemic, and they were worried about, is everybody going to die? What's going on? I went, you know what? The only thing that matters in your life are 2 things: is to make the world better than when you found it, and help others.
I love that.
Nothing else. Anything else is selfish. Anything else is selfish. And what point is there living if you don't help others or leave the room better than when you found it? So that's what I've been trying to do. I'm going to work with a food bank, because November and December. I don't know if you know about El Paso.
I do
right?
not.
Yeah. So El Paso a month ago said, "Hey, we got spike in infections. I'd like to everybody wear masks." I think this is the mayor that said this.
Oh. Okay.
And then your governor went, "No, we're not closing the economy." Yeah. Well, just yesterday they ordered their 6th morgue refrigerator. Yeah. Oh, we're not going to wear masks. Well, so anyway, November, December, we're going to see a lot of deaths in this country because there's a lot of idiots who think that either it's a hoax or they're not wearing masks. It's absolutely stupidity. I've never seen so much stupidity. By the way, in Australia now, they had 8 cases in Victoria, so they had an entire lockdown for 6 weeks. Now they have no cases, and everybody's walking around, going to movies, going to bars, and having picnics and having parties. That's in Australia right now. In America,
and you don't hear about that on anything. No one's telling anyone about that.
That's because we should be ashamed as a country for how so many people listen to that idiot.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a crazy time. I had no idea about that with Australia. That's amazing. I mean, that they just cracked down on it, and now that they're doing better and they're prosperous. That's absolutely crazy. Wow. Kind of transitioning here. What advice do you have to new ventriloquists?
You have to work at getting good. It's really important that your voice is different from your puppets. I've seen so many ventriloquists where it's this. Hey, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing good.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, the same voice. You have to have completely different voices is number one.
Mm-hmm.
Right? How you doing?
I'm doing good.
You're doing good?
I think so.
Really? Now, Button's actually, his voice is the closest to mine.
Mm-hmm.
But, when I do Chuck, it's completely different. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
And so you got to do that ventriloquial voice up in there to totally separate it from yourself. So the voice has to be completely different than yours. That's number one. Number two, it's hard to make your lips not move, but that puppet has to look alive. You got to make that puppet look alive. And no matter what you're doing, man, it's always got to be looking alive. It's always got to be always looking around. It's always got to be looking around. Whatever it's doing, it can never be dead. It can never be dead,
Yeah.
It can never be dead. It always has to be, it always has to be alive the whole time.
Sure.
What?
Yeah.
What are you saying?
What are you saying?
I just want to drink.
So that's it, really. Different voice, make that puppet look alive. Anything other than that, and you have to have good interplay. You have to react to the puppet, and you have to have some good jokes.
Sure.
Or
what would you say? What would you say the differences between a puppet and a character?
Well, a puppet is the vehicle. It's like what's the difference between a car and a Chevy, right? A Chevy is a car, but a Chevy is like the older ones look awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So a puppet is the vehicle that you use. Doesn't matter if it's a hand puppet or a head on a stick. Doesn't matter. But you have to make it look alive, and you have to treat it like it's a separate puppet. You have to talk to it, and it has to talk to you.
Mm-hmm. For sure. What, David Strassman, what do you hope to see from the future of ventriloquism and from future events?
Originality. Like Nina Conti is my favorite. She is so awesome.
Mm-hmm.
She is original. I mean, did you see her routine where she's at the gynecological office?
No, I have not seen that one yet.
Look that one up. It will blow you away. It's wrong in so many ways, but it's so unique and unique. It's just absolutely crazy. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And she does a thing where a monkey takes over her personality, and she's just brilliant, and she's unique and original. And I just want to see more of that,
Yeah. Totally. Wow. Phenomenal. Well, David Strassman, thank you so much for being part of Landon Live and for sharing your story.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And hopefully you can get this out and have a lot of ventriloquists watch it, and they can learn something.
Oh, for sure. I hope everyone can take at least something from this amazing interview. You guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next Landon Live.
Say something here.
Oh.
I just want to say, what time is it?
It's 1:56 here in Texas. Buttons.
Bye.
All right. Take care. Drink safe. Drive safe. In your case.